And let me also thank my friends from the media for the array of questions they've posed, and if I'll be allowed to say, very probing and enlightening questions, and that for me is very encouraging. It simply means that we are all awake to the issues, and we are determined to play our respective roles to ensure the effective management of the lands and natural resources of our country. Mr. Selom from the Finder wanted to know about patrol boats and how much they cost. Unfortunately, I should say that is a bit premature at this stage. As you know, the governance, architecture of our country and the public financial management regime of our country will mean that there are processes of procurement, and we have an elaborate process of procurement, and it gets to a point where they are audited, the Auditor General, Public Accounts Committee, PPA, and so on and so forth. So on top of my head, I'll be unable to tell you how much it costs, but suffice for me to emphasize that there are a gamut of measures which, as a people, we have put in place within our governance architecture to ensure that value for money and all of this. And of course, finally, if I may say, if you are so determined, as you know, the Right to Information Act gives you a lot of powers to be able to source an information like that. It's public knowledge. It's nothing that we can hide from. But I can assure you also that the ministry ahead will go about these things very responsibly and make sure that the Ghanaian people get value for money. So that is what I can say to that. And you asked the question about Green Streets project and how much it will cost. Well, again, premature. I'm just here to inaugurate the planning committee. We haven't even determined the scope of what we are going to do, the funding sources and all of that. And you can be rest assured that in the end, we're going to come back to the good people of Ghana again to tap into their generosity and patriotism for us to be able to undertake this very important program without having to burden unnecessarily the public exchequer. As you know, we have a lot of challenges today. We are going through trying times. So we need to find innovative way of funding these projects, which are very important and necessary. So unfortunately, I won't be able to give you an answer. The Deputy Minister, Honorable Benito, is going to chair that National Implementation Committee, and I believe that if you liaise with him at the stage when he will have the cost, he will let you know. You should be the first person to contribute to whatever fund will be set up to do that project. And how much did planting along River Dye cost? I mean, as minister, I won't be able to know. I mean, the CEO of Forestry Commission, I think he's here. Is the CEO of Forestry Commission here? Yeah, he's here. So they are in charge of those things. If you knock on his doors tomorrow next, I'm sure he can furnish you with that cost. It shouldn't be a problem at all. Then Mr. Timothy from Daily Graphic wanted to know about the rosewood impounded, the containers and national security investigations and so on and so forth. The process and the regime we have when it comes to rosewood, as you may be aware, is that when we impound rosewood now, I mean, we've not impounded rosewood for a long time now, and that for me is a pleasant surprise. I'm very happy about that. It simply tells you that the policies we put in place are working. But before then, when we impounded rosewood, and the rosewood that you talked about, the policy was that originally they get auctioned, okay, public auction. And then we discovered that when they get auctioned publicly, it also turns out that the same cartels, knowing that there will be a public auction, go around the auction and then purchase the rosewood. And that is actually laundering the rosewood, cleaning it up. Because once you purchase at the Forestry Commission auction, you will be given what they call a CITES permit. And that enables you to export the rosewood. So what will the cartels do? They just factor the cost of buying from the auction into their cost of business. And then they then sell accordingly. So it was just not a problem for them. And it was good business for them. You go and harvest illegally, they are impounded, they are auctioned publicly. You, the man, you find a surrogate or a front to buy at the auction. it's cleaned up, you get an imprimatur of the Forestry Commission, and then you export it. Which is why we took the view that rosewood which are impounded should not be auctioned again. And therefore, those rosewood will be donated to public institutions, I should put it that way, beginning with the National Cathedral. Of course, the rosewood we have, the National Cathedral will not need all of it. So if we exhaust the National Cathedral, my thinking would be that we'll go to Ghana Education Service and give it to them to construct furniture for our students across the country. So there is no more the avenue for these unscrupulous people to be involved in this syndicate of, doing the illegal harvesting and participating in the auction, which is why for a while now, since this measure was put in place, I have not received any indication of the impounding of rosewood, which is good news. So that's the policy. And then we, at some stage, in answer to your specific question, we then said the national security should investigate the cartel, not the rosewood. The rosewood aspect is within the remit of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources. But the syndicate and the cartel which is involved in this business, they should try and get to the bottom of it. The foreigners, the people who buy and so on and so forth. That investigation is ongoing. And I know a lot of progress has been made in that respect. Always remember that these are very sophisticated syndicates and cartels. So it takes a bit of time to unravel them. So that will be the answer for that. And then you asked the question about tracking of Galamsey excavators and all of that. I think I did mention a bit of it in my presentation. We have a whole program between the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and the Ministry of Transport to roll out and the Ministry of National Security, I should add, to roll out a very comprehensive, robust tracking system for what we call all earth-moving equipment, not just excavators, all earth-moving equipment, so that when you bring an earth-moving equipment into our country, first of all, you need permits. And so if anybody wants to import excavator into Ghana today, the person must apply to the Minister for Transport. The Minister for Transport must seek my opinion or recommendation or report on that application to be satisfied that that excavator is being imported into the country for purposes of genuine mining business. If you are importing excavator for building construction or for road construction, the Transport Minister will contact the Minister for Roads or the Minister for Works and Housing. So this is a system we have in place now, which seems to be working quite well. Hitherto, people just imported earth-moving equipment into our country indiscriminately without any proper regulatory regime. Now we do have one. The second one is that when the earth-moving equipments are now imported into the country, how do you know that the man who says, I'm bringing an excavator for mining, genuine mining business, ends up using it for Galamsey? This is why we are introducing the earth-moving tracking system, which is tremendously far advanced. I think the Minerals Commission CEO is here. They have a control room set up already. They are now procuring the tracking devices, and I think in a matter of months or so, the program will be rolled out. And therefore, all excavators used for mining in the country will be tracked. And I should say all mining equipment, not just excavators, all mining equipment will be tracked. So we're very much on course with that. Mr. Timothy again asks about the Green Streets project. I'm not too sure my able deputy minister will be too happy with me giving so much details, because he prefers, being the man on the ball, that we should wait for the day of the launch and then we spell it all out. But really, it's what I said before. We're trying to make an effort to beautify our capital cities and make them green. When you go to Cairo, almost on every street of Cairo has one type of tree everywhere. You go to even Abidjan, there are trees in Abidjan, even nearby Abidjan, you have one type of tree and multiple trees in every part of the city, the streets of the city. In fact, even Abuja, next door Abuja, you find streets with trees in the medians, in the avenues. It's beautiful, it vegetates our cities, it contributes to the fight against climate change, and it's modern, and it's something that I believe, government believes that we should begin to make the effort to replicate same here in Ghana. And if indeed the strategy we have is that every city will have a unique tree. So when you go to Takoradi, it's a unique tree. You see a picture of Takoradi and you see the trees, you can readily say, this is Takoradi. And if you see a picture of Accra with the trees, you can see this is Accra. Undoubtedly, it's going to be a difficult undertaking, how to raise the money, the implementation. I heard somebody talk about sustainability in terms of nurturing them, maintenance, and the rest. These are all going to be difficult aspects of the program. But the good news is that the Parks and Gardens of our country, the Parks and Gardens Department of Ghana, is the agency responsible for this work. They are responsible for this work. And they, through the Ministry of Local Government, are working hand in glove with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources to get this going. We will be coming back to you for your support, because this is going to be a massive undertaking. It's just going to be like the Green Ghana Day, where we will need all Ghanaians to lock into it. But my view is that when you put your mind and heart to something, and with the blessings of God, you can do it. So this one will do it and get it going. Nana Poku wants to know about indiscriminate felling of trees in the capital cities of our country. The law is that before you can harvest a tree in, I stand to be corrected though, before you can harvest a tree in the urban areas, as in towns, or forest reserve, not in the forest reserve, you require the permit of the district assembly. That's the law as I know it. CEO, is that correct? Yes, you require the permit of the district assemblies. Now, if you harvest trees in forest reserves, or even in your farm, in the bush, then you need a permit of the Forestry Commission. So the regulation of how trees are harvested or fell in Accra, Kumasi, and other places is really within the remit of the Ministry of Local Government. And I do know that the very respected, hard-working Minister for Local Government, Honorable Dan Kwekuboche, is very much on top of this and is very much breathing through the neck of MMDCs and putting in place policies to make sure that this is regulated so that we have a well-structured way of managing the trees in our capital cities. Those we are coming to plant on the streets, we will protect them. Those will not be harvested, be rest assured. Many a times also, road construction turns out to occasion the unavoidable harvesting of wood species along our roads so that we can expand the roads. And when people see that, sometimes they raise alarm. So we have to distinguish between the two. But suffice to conclude on that the Minister for Local Government is very much on top of this situation. There's a question about land tenure and how we are dealing with the issues of land. That is a very important question. It's an extremely, extremely important question. I don't know of any adult Ghanaian since I became minister. I would say all, but I think the significant proportion of our adult population, almost each one of us have some land issue of a sort. I've had some before, and all of us do. You buy land and title registration is a problem, and search is, multiple, and, you buy from this chief, another chief pops up, land guard, and your building is broken down. Somebody tells me before you can erect a full residential building or a structure, the hurdles you have to go through is just ridiculous, In my previous life as a practicing lawyer, I bought land for a client, and just when the client began to build, so some chiefs popped up, without slippers, and demanded that, they have to pour libation and all of that. And the grounds of it, you can't tell. But this is our reality, which is why in my presentation I talked about the extraordinary efforts the very capable and able Executive Secretary of the Lands Commission, Mr. Ed Hassan, is involved in, and his team. I mean, working day and night to try and make sure that land administration in this country is fit for purpose. And they do extraordinary work, I should tell you. I see it all the time, trying to sanitize the place. As I said, now search results have now been consolidated. You apply for search, you get one result. You don't go to land division, lands commission, one resource, survey division, one resource, land title, a different resource. Now they've been consolidated. So when you put in a search, it's a composite resource you get. That is made tremendous impact on land administration in our country. So is it that the implementation of Act 1036, the New Lands Act, the provisions are far-reaching, they are comprehensive, and if they are implemented properly, they have a way and a very, for me, a very consequential way of impacting on land administration in our country. And the Executive Secretary and co are working on that around the clock. And I should say also that the program we have to digitize the records of Lands Commission, for me, is the game changer. The day we're able to digitize all the records of Lands Commission, and anybody can sit in this room on the bottom of their phone. Somebody says, I want to sell you a parcel of land in La Paz or whatever, and you put Chado, or you punch your phone. This site plan is given. What does it mean? All the records come on your phone. It was bought by Ni something in 1909. It passed on until the man who says he's a grantor or who says he's going to be your lessor is indeed the man who has title to the land. That day is the day when I believe we can say we have crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's when it comes to land administration. But that is a lot of work to be done. The work is being done, I can assure you. We are working on that fully, and sooner rather than later, we'll bring closure to that. The matter to do with lands in Ghana, I mean, we need to appreciate it. There's a history to it. There's a history to it. In Africa, we are about the only country where our forebears, rightly so and proudly so, preserve our lands from colonial takeover. The Crown Lands Base of 1876, when Mensa Saba and Co. stood up, the Aborigines Right Protection Society, and resisted the British colony, the Crown, from appropriating the land and making all the lands of Ghana state lands. They did resist it. And now I feel very proud about that. It didn't happen in Zimbabwe, it didn't happen in Kenya and East Africa. The biggest issue of conflict and the biggest headache for all the political upheavals in East Africa is because the colonial governments appropriated all their land. So you go to Kenya and Zimbabwe, almost every land is state land. And that is what, President Mugabe and co, that's been the reason for that. But Ghana is different. Ghana, first of all, there's nothing like ownerless land. Olenu said it. There's nothing like ownerless land. Every land has its owner. And predominantly, the lands are owned by the Stools, the Skins, the Tindanes, the clans, and families. That is it. Every government land, every public land was acquired from a chief, or from families, or from clans. In Asante-Man, for example, 90% of all Asante-Man belong to the Golden Stool. So that is the land tenure system of ours. For me, there's nothing wrong with it. We should be proud of it. What is important is that the Lands Commission, which is a repository of land registry and lands records in our country, will be fit for purpose, so that if Nitetreku says this land is for him, Lands Commission can punch a computer and say it is for Nitetreku or it is not for Nitetreku. It is because we do not have a fit-for-purpose land administration in our country. That is why we have the problems we have. But the roots of land tenure system, I have no quarrels with it. Mensa Saba and Co did a good job, and which is why Ghana's lands are what it is and belongs to our forebears, the chiefs and skins and so on and so forth. But it's work in progress, and be rest assured that we'll continue to do the work. Mr. Justice Bedu of Joy FM wants to know about Obuasi soldiers and all of that, and minorities press conference. And yes, the minority press conference, that one is very much within their remit, and I'm not too sure we expected anything less. So I won't make any comment on that. The ministry has set up an investigative committee chaired by the Deputy Minister for Mines, Honorable George Mekuduka. The committee was constituted yesterday. They began work earnestly, and they've gone very far with their work. And we will produce a report, and we will act on the report. Suffice for me to say to you that dealing with Galamsey and illegalities in the extractive industry anywhere in the world is quite complicated. And you have some of these challenges and some of these setbacks and so on and so forth. But what is important is for us to assemble the unimpeachable facts first. And then on the basis of the unimpeachable facts, we'll take it from there. Always remember that the people who are purported, and I use this word with emphasis, who are purported to be in the video and alleged to be involved in this conduct, and alleged with emphasis again, are soldiers, are supposed to be soldiers. And if indeed it's established that they are soldiers, it will not be a matter within the remit of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources alone. It will then be a collaborative effort between my ministry and the Ministry of Defense and the leadership of the Ghana Armed Forces. And as you know, the Ghana Armed Forces is a very astute institution which is very adept at dealing with these matters. So early days yet, let's be patient, we'll get to the bottom of it. Kojo Ajimai of City, Solenkwara. So, as you know, the Bulgarian embassy and the issues involved in the Bulgarian embassy, we are all very familiar with the issues, so I will not recount them. I set up this Solenkwara headed in the person of Justice Oforiata, who is a very distinguished judge, High Court judge, retired High Court judge himself, with a wealth of experience in land disputes and litigation and all of that. Was one time chairperson for the Lands Commission in Ashanti region, and has brought up a report which for me is very impressive and which covers almost all the aspects of the matter. And I think we've made known to the country what the executive summary of the report is. We finished the Bulgarian consulate in Accra a copy of the full report. I have met the Bulgarian ambassador to Nigeria, who has concurrent mandate to our country, Ghana, and we've had very fruitful discussions. I've been exchanging correspondence with him all this while. We've set up a team to see to the implementation of the Soul Inquiries report. The Deputy Minister, Benito Usubio, Honorable Benito Usubio is chairing that committee. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has a representative on that committee. The Technical Director for Lands at the Ministry, Mr. Nsafwa, is a member of the committee. And trust me, they've been working flat out to bring closure to this matter. The matter is boiling down to some sort of mediation, and I wouldn't bore you with the nitty-gritties of it. But they are working. They've met the parties multiple times, and I believe that, fingers crossed, and with the blessings of God, we should be able to bring closure to this matter. And the bigger issue of diplomatic missions, embassies in our country, and their interest in landed property and how we deal with them, how we safeguard them, to have Ghana continue to be the respected member of the international community. That is also ongoing. So be very rest assured about that. Mr. Eko Moore, I think, of Bloomberg, wants to know about our loss of our position as the #1 gold producer in Africa. Ghana has been the #1 gold producer in Africa for a while, and the 6th gold producer in the world. Our position seems to have been threatened in 2021. And it's not far-fetched. The reason is not far-fetched. The reason is very simple. It is because in 2021, we began our regularization and sanitization of the small-scale mining sector. As you know, the small-scale mining sector contributes about 1/4 of all our gold production and exports in Ghana. And in 2021 is when we had the National Consultative Dialogue in April, and following which we rolled out all these measures of Operation Halt, decommissioning of equipment used for illegal mining, closing down on illegal mining operations, and so on and so forth. That obviously should have an impact on the production of gold in our country, because as I've said, the small-scale mining industry contributes or accounts for 40%, about 40% of our gold output in Ghana. So when you are reforming a sector and sanitizing a sector like that, you definitely will have a shortfall. We did have a shortfall on that. And also remember that in 2015, the withholding tax on the export of unprocessed gold was pegged at 3%. And we've had to make strenuous arguments at the Ministry of Finance and the Economic Management team multiple meetings of making our case that it will be necessary for us to reduce the withholding tax, because our neighboring countries are charging between 1% and 1.5%. And if you are charging 3% and asking small-scale miners to pass their gold through PMMC and pass their gold through the official channels, it just, doesn't make economic sense. Because if the man can smuggle the gold to Togo and export it for 1% or 1.5%, that is 1% or 1.5% earnings. And for gold business, 1.5% of a little is so much money. So that was a big incentive for small-scale miners to smuggle gold out of the country. The smuggling is not justified, by no means. I don't accept it, that is justified, regardless of the regime we had. But thankfully, we got a finance minister. He was gracious enough to reduce the withholding tax from 3% to 1.5%. And now it's 1.5%. That makes us competitive with our neighbors. And I gave the figures that already we've had about 400, 500% jump in gold exports since we reduced it. The expectation is that we will get back to our #1 position as a gold producing country in Africa. I have no doubt about it, that in 2022, moving to 2023, Ghana will bounce back as the #1 gold producer in Africa. There's a question about dollar power. Yes, dollar power. There's an official in my ministry, a very distinguished public officer, and very capable, a lecturer himself, military general and all of that, who heads the Ghana Boundaries Commission. And these days I've stopped calling him General Kuti. I call him General Dollar Power. Because it appears all he does, almost all he does is dollar power, dollar power. He's very much on top of it. He's done a lot of work when it comes to dollar power. I think it's important when we are in the confines of these, with the greatest of respect, air-conditioned rooms, we tend to not appreciate what is happening out there. So dollar power is a no man's land in the past. It was an enclave where nobody had control. So the Ivorians is a place between the Ivory Coast and Ghana, the border, more or less the border of Ivory Coast and Ghana, where I just wish I would call him to the podium to tell you about it. He would have given you a full lecture on it. Where they didn't have any form of authority. So no police, no political leadership, no water, no road, no nothing. But a very vibrant, robust community with a big market, with moving and coming, things happening, lots of crime, drug sales and so on and so forth. Motorbikes are the means of communicating between their kingdom, if you want, and the rest of the world. Under the able leadership of General Kotia, the Ghanaian authorities have intervened, and at the beginning he had to be moving in there with helicopter, with military covers and the rest. Gradually, we've now been able to come to some grips with that situation, where we've introduced some level of official authority, and trying to put a police post there, a small military detachment, and so on and so forth, and even getting some sort of traditional arrangement to have some chiefs and all of that, and putting some regulation and authority in that area. But what is significant about that area, apart from the security implications, the national security implications of terrorism and all of that, what is significant, which is why dollar power has become dollar power, and everybody knows about dollar power, and everybody talks about dollar power. There is proven deposits of gold in that part of our country. And therefore, these chaps engage in illegal mining, Galamsey, little Galamsey here and there, and therefore they are liquid. There's money floating around. So people, even in my constituency, people, you hear young men saying, I'm going to dollar power. It's a place of greener pastures. And they tend to go there and so on and so forth. So we are putting the regulation in place. We are bringing formal governmental authority to bear. The Ghana Highways Authority is in the process of constructing a road so that the place will be easily accessible. And then eventually, when we come to full grips with the governance situation there, we will look for a concessionaire who will begin to develop a gold mining operation in that enclave, and make sure that the place is fully sanitized. So I think I've answered all the questions. I hope so.